Hello, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Methods. I'm your host, Mario Picciardo. And for the uninitiated, Methods is a podcast where we discuss all kinds of issues, all kinds of different things. We're not set onto any particular topic. And today we're going to be talking about men, but particularly uh, that men have been really left behind, where you see this huge push to have greater representation of women in media, in the workforce, in really every facet of society. And I want to talk a little bit about traditional gender roles, because originally how it was is the man was the breadwinner, right, for the longest time. And because the man was the one who was bringing home the bacon, so to speak, his worth to society was his ability to have a stable family, to raise kids along with the wife who typically would stay home and make sure that, the kids learned all the things that they needed to learn at the time. And uh, for some reason, society looks back at that now, the way that men originally found their sense of worth, and they are now saying no, that is oppressive to women as a part of this whole progressive movement. And is it a good thing that women are out there doing their own thing, getting jobs, that they're independent? Yes, I think it's good that women now have the opportunity to add more value back to society. In fact, I think that that's a good thing. That's a pretty good thing. However, I think it's a really bad thing when it comes at the cost of stable families, where the husband and the wife both have something to gain by being in a relationship and having a child together. And when I'm talking about men, particularly when we're talking about what men have to bring to a family, what men have to bring to a society, to a group, the reason that, we talk about the woman is because the man's value was dependent on his ability to bring home the bacon. But now we live in a society that really calls anything traditionally masculine is toxic. Being aggressive, being assertive. If you find a woman attractive, talking to her. Um, being forceful that way. If you see kids, doing stupid stuff, kind of just looking the other way, saying, well, kids are just stupid. Kids do dumb things. I did dumb things when I was young too. Because boys are rowdy. They're just, it's a part of the testosterone. Boys are rowdy. They want to fight. They want to push the limits. But we live in a society that media wise says that's not okay. That men cannot um, express themselves by being rowdy, by upsetting the balance, by not being nice. And when it comes to men providing for their family, the prospect of the kids being raised by the mother is regressive to this leftist media that controls Hollywood and many of the major news companies, the music, big tech. So a lot of what's pushed on Western society is this idea that men are inherently bad. And not only that, but worthless. Because they're not women. But also that they're oppressors of women. And so I think what we're seeing as far as the statistics go is a high, very high suicide rate among boys and men. And I think that that exists because traditional men who were assertive in our society, who got things done, who said no when stupid laws or stupid ideas or stupid ideologies were being pushed in our towns, in our villages, in our cities. And they said, oh, this is stupid. No, we're not going to bulk to this. Men who traditionally said, no, we're going to go to church on Sunday. This is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to be done. A man's man. They've demonized that. Even saying that, even using these words, sexist, misogynist is what they call it. And they shame you for talking about real things. And believe it or not, things that really mattered and things that really still matter, and things that we still need. This leftist, quote unquote, progressive ideology is based in a need to be nicer, a need to be less offensive. In other words, a need to just go along with whatever the status quo is and not to upset the balance. Because the pinnacle of society is to say that everything is equal and nothing can possibly be bad. And you know where this ends up? There's no morality. That's the only way that this ends. There's no morality. Everything that we used to hate, that we used to say was wrong and evil, is now okay. People think this is going too far, but it's being pushed right now. Pedophilia will be okay. Marrying a very young kid on Twitter. This is already coming out on Twitter. People have been blasting it. It's totally okay for a very old man to date a 10-year-old kid. Well, why couldn't they? Because, right, everything's equal, nothing's bad. So the left pushes evil ideology, whether they're aware of it or not, and they call it seeking compassion, destroying hate. But by destroying hate, they're bringing in evil. But for now, I just want to focus on the effect that's having on men, on young men. I think that when you have a society that has cast men aside, that said that women have been oppressed for so long, and now they're getting their leg up, Well, it's not that women are doing better necessarily. It's just that we're replacing men with women. In other words, our society is choosing to devalue men as if they're some kind of third or fourth class citizen and replace them with women. But not only that, but to say that single family homes are a good thing, even though single family homes are highly correlated to raising children who become criminals, who go the wrong way, who become addicts, because they don't have a stable father figure to keep them in line. Even saying this, oh, that's sexist, that's misogynist. It's the truth. And the fact that someone would even say that refuses to acknowledge the fact that a man does actually have value. He does inherently have a value. Men are not disposable. You know who'd say that? Someone who hates men, absolutely, that you'd say that they hold no value. So I kind of just want to speak to the men out there, the boys, to the guys. Your society, mainstream wise, has absolutely abandoned you. And you have every right to feel victimized by it and to be upset, to be pissed off, and to be mad. But allowing those actions and allowing those behaviors and the things that came before you to dictate who you're going to be, choosing to be a victim to it, choosing to allow yourself to wallow in self-pity is not good either. You know, as a man, being a man isn't easy. No one said it's easy, because there's some hard things you have to do sometimes, but that's even that's based on perspective. Some things are easy for some people, some things are easy for other people. But in whatever your case is, as men, we need to say things how they are. Call out BS when it comes up. Because if we don't have a society of strong men willing to be there to fight the good fight when the fight comes, and trust me, the fight is now, we're not going to have a society, a strong society where people can flourish. You see, a lot of this leftist ideology that's based on compassion, there's nothing wrong with it in terms of the compassion, but there is such a thing as too much compassion, where you become so trying to cater to everyone's needs that you kind of don't have an identity at all. You try to cater so much that you do no one any good, and that's what's happening right now. Notice how they're pitting the sexes against each other. No, women are being oppressed and men are evil. Even though they don't say it outright. They don't have to say it outright. Look at the effect. Look at men and women being put at odds. Look at the growth of a organization, not an organization, more of an ideology, MGTOW, men going their own way because they found the courts to be set against them, female hypergamy to be difficult to deal with. Look, I don't blame men for going their own way. Marriage is a bad deal for men. Absolutely. Especially particularly non Christian based marriages are pretty bad for men. You lose. You straight up lose. but there is a place for men in society. In fact, there can be no society without strong men. There have to be strong men somewhere. Have to be. So to the men out there, there's a place for you in society for sure. There's a lot of men who spend a lot of time, playing games online or distracting themselves somehow from integrating themselves into society, from doing something in their communities that allows them to meet other people, to integrate. They're being kept from that. Men are becoming recluse. They're staying at home. They're not meeting other people. They're becoming loners, but not really doing anything, not toiling away towards anything, just kind of letting life pass them by, choosing to leave society in general. Socially, they're gone. And trust me, in a way, I do not blame you. What is there really for you to look forward to if things continue on the way that they are? You have a society that constantly tells you that you're doing bad things. But I think that to the men out there, there is an opportunity for us to come back and to say, no, this isn't okay. We're going to speak our mind. And look, of course, the reason that we don't is because there's a real social cost. Nobody wants to be labeled as a racist, a misogynist, a homophobe, a transphobe, whatever else they come up with. But they do it because they know that it works. And I've met a lot of men that I know who don't care and who don't have really a fight to fight. And so they just wallow away and let their lives go as well. But I think that really what drives a man is a sense of purpose, a sense of having something worth fighting for, worth working towards. And I think that a man without a goal, without some kind of vision, something to latch onto, becomes a shell of a man. And I don't want that to happen. Now, if you're a guy listening to this out there, being a man in Western society is tough. Western society demonizes men just because of their gender. And they say that you're an oppressor, or that you have some kind of innate privilege based on something you had no control over. It's really no different from slavery back in the day, where you were devalued based on the color of your skin. Now it's just done on the basis of gender. And they say it's okay. They mask it as being okay because they say, well, historically you've done this, or your group has done this. But you know what, guys? You're not responsible for what your parents did, or their grandparents, or great-grandparents, or anybody before then. You weren't here, and you're just one person. You're not responsible for Joe Schmo, for what Joe Schmo did 100 years ago, 200 years ago. That's not your fault. It doesn't matter if you're some quote-unquote beneficiary of what happened all those years ago, that you're where you are now because of that, and that somehow means that you're a bad person. You're not. There's a famous quote that says, evil only prospers, or something, when good men do nothing. In other words, evil doesn't just become a thing. It becomes a thing when we don't do anything, when we just let it happen. And for a lot of men out there, I don't think they have a call to arms. They don't have something to really fight for, something to really go after. But, there is a fight out there. There is a fight out there. There's a lot of fights out there that are worth fighting. Fighting back against globalists, for example. Fighting back against socialism, the rise of socialist policy. Fighting back against this nonsense pseudo-feminism, third-wave feminism. The fight for our women. The fight for real equality. The fight for gender parity in the courts, in the criminal justice system. There's a lot of fights, social fights, economic fights. There's a lot of fights to jump into. Go out there, make videos, educate yourself, teach other people. There's the social fight, the fight against being discounted just because of your gender, just because of your ethnicity or race. If you happen to be white, you're demonized. You think you're the only one, you're not. You can meet up with new people, join a fight. If there's one thing that I've learned, is that men need a fight. They need to be a warrior. They need a cause. They need to join something greater than themselves in some way to feel alive. It's really been hard to look at what's been happening to guys. They're staying at home longer. They're really not getting out there, meeting new people. We really are becoming more recluse, and that doesn't bode well for our societies. Men aren't really getting out there. They're not, in some cases, they're just not getting jobs at all. In Japan, for example, the average age for a person's increasing, which means that Japan isn't having kids at replacement rates. The population for Japan is shrinking. The population in the West is also shrinking by growth by replacement rate. People aren't having kids. They're not having enough kids. And partly you can't blame them because of the economy. In some cases where people are making less today than there were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they expect to have lower financial outcomes than their parents. Young people are saddled with huge debt because the colleges are gouging people more and more, and everybody said you had to go to college to be successful, and now you can't even get student loan forgiveness. You're saddled with it. You're stuck with it. You got to figure it out. The dollar's worth much less than it was a long time ago. And on top of that, men are being pitted against women. Social justice has really taken everything and ran away with it. But I think that there is a fight to be had here. And I think it's absolutely a fight worth fighting. And, I'm going to end it here, but we'll definitely come back. We'll pick up this conversation more tomorrow. I just wanted to make something and put it out there pretty quickly because it's kind of the end of the day here for me. So you guys will probably see this tomorrow. I'm going to put this live. This will go live on Friday. So you guys will see it then. I'm recording it late on Thursday. But this has been something I've been wanting to do. I've been wanting to talk about a lot. We'll go more in depth into it